You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network.
You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet. Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
All right, Miami! Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest football team. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. 'Cause we're the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins.
Good evening, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Monday, May the 13th. I am your host, Mike Oliva, flying solo today as we have a lot to talk about in the world of the Miami Dolphins. Some new contracts were passed out today around the NFL, one in Tampa and one in Detroit, that will have a ripple effect on what will take place in Miami with Jevon Holland and Tua Tagovailoa. So we're going to talk about that. Also, the schedule's coming out on Wednesday. We've already had some leaks, non-Miami Dolphins, that have been confirmed with Cleveland versus the Cowboys week 1 and some other stuff. We'll talk about that later on in the show. But before we get to any of that, as always, a big shout out to everyone listening at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, the largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also, a shout out to our friends at the I Am a Miami Dolphins Fan Facebook page. If you're on Facebook, please be sure you are a part of the I Am a Miami Dolphins Fan Facebook page. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Podbean, Audible, Podchaser, we're on all the podcasting outlets. Hit that subscribe button right now. You do not want to miss an episode of the DolphinsTalk.com podcast or any of the podcasts we have here at the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network. And if you're listening on Apple, please leave us a 5-star rating and a positive review. That always helps. And if you want me to talk about a topic that on the show, especially in this offseason, gets to May, June, July, where it's kind of slow, go to our Apple podcast page, leave us a 5-star rating. And in that rating, when it's the place for the comment, put your question, put your topic, and I will talk about that on the show, one of the upcoming shows. And one more thing before we start with the news here, I want to say a thank you to everyone who sent, nice words, who have said nice words, sent positive feedback for the interview I did with broadcasting legend Dan Patrick last Thursday. The feedback has been tremendous. I really do. It warms my heart that so many people enjoyed that interview, enjoyed hearing from Dan Patrick on our show. He's a big name. He's a big get. I ain't going to lie. And it was a pleasure talking to Dan. I can't thank him enough for a few moments of his time. And I'm glad from what I'm seeing, everyone really, really enjoyed it. So be on the lookout for more guests here coming up on the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network. Okay, let's talk about the big news of the day. So in Tampa, Antoine Winfield Jr. signed a new 4-year, $84.1 million contract with $45 million guaranteed. He is now the highest paid defensive back in NFL history. Let me say that again. The highest paid defensive back in NFL history. That resets the market for what safeties will be paid moving forward and what defensive backs will be paid moving forward as well. And how does that affect the Miami Dolphins, you ask? Well, Javon Holland is now going in to the final year of his contract. Him and his representation and his agents are going to look at that contract, go to Chris Grier, go to Mr. Stephen Ross and say, I want that or more. Will he get it? I don't know. But if his agent has a brain, that's what they're going to do, is say, I want that or more. And I wouldn't blame him because Antoine Winfield's a fantastic safety. Now, he was drafted 1 year prior to Jevon Holland, and Tampa Bay put the franchise tag on him this past March. So there was a little pressure. I mean, they still had him under control for this upcoming year, but they wanted to get something done here and lock him up long term because that's how much they valued him and felt they wanted him to be a big part of their future. So kudos to Tampa Bay for getting that done and locking up Antoine Winfield Jr. Now, when you're the Miami, now Chris Grier and the Miami Dolphins, the ball's in their court. And what will they do? Will they look to sign Javon Holland either prior to this season to an extension in May, June, July, August through training camp, or are they going to wait, let the year play out, and try to sign him next year as a free agent, or use the franchise tag on him? We'll see. Let's compare some stats though, because both these guys, like I said, they were drafted 1 year apart. Some stats: Javon Holland has played in 45 total games. He started 42, 5 interceptions, 4 sacks. Winfield, 1 extra season, has started 59 of 59 games. He started every game he's ever played in, 7 interceptions, and he has 15 sacks as a safety. That's a lot. Winfield, like I said, he's fantastic. Winfield has also been to 1 Pro Bowl, and he was named All-Pro once. That was last season, first team All-Pro once. Javon Holland has never been to a Pro Bowl and never been named either first or second team All-Pro. So Winfield, I think most objective people who follow the sport would say slightly better of a player, but that contract, 4 years, $84 million, $45 million guaranteed. Holland's going to want to be in that neighborhood. It might not be exact money, but it's going to have to be close for the Miami Dolphins to retain him, and which leads to the question, will Chris Grier pay a safety that much money? Because you look at Chris Grier's history. We've spoken about this ad nauseum, but when topics like this come up, we have to repeat it. Chris Grier puts a premium on premium position players. Chris Grier, in rounds 1 or 2 of the draft, puts a premium on quarterback, offensive tackles, wide receivers, cornerbacks, and edge rushers, the 5 premium positions. Rounds 1 and 2, he is drafted that almost exclusively. Holland's the outlier, and so was Robert Hunt, and so was Christian Wilkins. And we saw this offseason, Christian Wilkins, who's a defensive end, not a premium position. Robert Hunt, who was a guard, not a premium position. Chris Grier was more than fine to let them walk. And Chris Grier was fine letting them walk to get a compensatory pick in 2025, which we think is in round 3, but that's not official. And you have to wonder if Chris Grier is looking at Javon Holland with the same, look, you gave us 4 great years, assuming he plays great this year, which I think we all hope and think he will. I can't pay big money to a safety, not a premium position. And Chris Grier might be more than happy to get a compensatory pick in 2026. Will he do that? Based on recent history, it's a fair question to ask. I don't know the answer. I do not know the answer. I'm not saying I know the answer. I'm saying based on Chris Grier's history, it's a fair question to ask. I hope not. I think Holland is, maybe not the best safety in the NFL, but he's in the conversation. I think, especially with his age, his youth, and how he's only going to improve moving forward. I would like to see him sort of be the anchor of that Miami Dolphins secondary for years to come. We'll see. Holland, like I said, he was selected in year 2, so there is no 5th-year option. After this year, he's a free agent. Miami could put the franchise tag on him after this year in March of 2025. The problem is with Miami's salary cap situation, when you're probably going to have to move on from someone like Armstead, pay some dead money. You might have to move on from someone like Chubb, pay some dead money. You might have to move on from Tyreek Hill, pay dead money, on top of giving an extension to Waddle, giving an extension to Tua, and giving an extension to Jaylen Phillips. Is there going to be enough money left to give Holland a big money extension, knowing Waddle, Tua, and Jaylen Phillips do play those premium positions that Chris Grier values so much? We'll see. I would hope. Now, look, we don't know. It's May 13th, and I don't know if Chris Grier and Javon Holland's agents have been talking this offseason about a new contract. All I would say is I hope they have. If they haven't, I think it's a bad look for Chris Grier. Again, I don't know if they have. I don't know. But I hope they have. Because if they haven't, it makes you wonder if your general manager's asleep at the wheel. But I can't criticize him because I don't know. And I know anytime something like this happens, we saw it with Wilkins, we saw it with Hunt, we saw it with others, I understand fans don't like to hear negative things about their own team and all that good stuff. But fans go, well, the players got to want to sign it. Chris Grier can offer to him. The players got to want to sign. Yeah, I get that. But how come we see in Miami, especially this offseason, players all around the league, like Antoine Winfield Jr., be more than happy to sign big money extensions before they hit the market or before they're on the market. And they're happy to sign with the teams that drafted them and will pay them big money. Just, so if that, which again, I don't think that's the, when fans say that stuff, it's like, to me, it's in 1 year, out the other, a lot of it. But it's like, you can't say that the player has to want it, because then there's a bigger argument going on. There's a bigger conversation going on. Is how come none of these players want to resign in Miami? So I don't know. I would say right now, if you're the Dolphins looking at the safety position, and a general manager's job is not just looking at the here and now, it's projecting long term. You look at what Miami has at safety. Javon Holland, final year of his deal. Everyone thinks he's a superstar and is only going to get better. Jordan Poyer turned 33 like a couple of weeks back. He's on a 1-year deal. Most people think this is the final year of his NFL career. He won't be back next year. And at that age, it might be unrealistic for him to be back. Then they have Elijah Campbell, who's a journeyman player, and Patrick McMorris, who they took in round 6. There's no serious depth at safety. Why a lot of fans and people like myself have said they need to add a safety here post June 1st in the worst way, because they need some real depth at that position. But I don't know. We'll see what goes on here. But this contract, congratulations to Antoine Winfield, highest paid defensive back in NFL history, 4 years, $84.1 million, 45 guaranteed. And let's just say this is a happy day for Javon Holland and his agents, because they're just looking at this deal and going, cha-ching, we are going to want something very similar, if not more, than what Antoine Winfield. And, I know a lot of fans are going to say, well, Antoine Winfield has way better stats and stuff like that. Yeah. So what? That's not the job of Javon Holland's agent, is to sit there and look at stats like that. They're going to say, yeah, but you want to lose our guy or no? Because if you don't, then you got to pay us equal. So we'll see how this plays out. I really hope they give him a long-term deal before week 1 in September. I do not want to see this drag out, all season. I do not want to see the Miami Dolphins, next February go down to the wire having to, sort of talk about if they have to use the franchise tag on it. It'd be nice to be ahead of the curve on one of these guys. We weren't on Wilkins. We weren't on Hunt. On Tua, this thing, which I'm about to talk about next, is just taking forever. It'd be nice to just lock up one of these guys early and not have to worry about it. I think from a fan's perspective, that's kind of what fans want to see, at least with 1 or 2 of these players. So we'll see how this plays out. But a good day for Javon Holland, his family, and his agents with this Antoine Winfield Jr. news. Talk about the other big contract extension that came out today, Jared Goff, and how that affects Tua Tagovailoa now. So another quarterback broke the bank with a contract extension, and that will affect what Tua Tagovailoa will get paid. Jared Goff got a 4-year extension worth $212 million, $170 million guaranteed. That is 80% of his contract fully guaranteed. That averages out to $53 million per year, making Jared Goff the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL, behind only Joe Burrow, on an average annual salary. And again, this is just good news for Tua Tagovailoa and his agents, who are going to want, now somewhere in that ballpark of $212 million, $170 million fully guaranteed. But they're probably not even wanting 4 years. They're going to want a 5th year to make that money, both the total money and the fully guaranteed money, even more. They're not going to want a 4-year deal. They're going to want a 5-year deal. Goff signed a 4-year deal because he's a little bit older. This isn't his first extension and stuff like that. Tua, being this is his first time to cash in big, they're going to want a 5-year deal. So this puts a little bit more pressure on Chris Grier and the Miami Dolphins organization. Again, I'm a little surprised that we're going into mid to late May here and this contract's still not done. And I know it's been reported from Adam Schefter and other folks that it was probably not going to get done until June or July. And there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of money. It's just, which I'm sure is all true. And I'm sure that's what he was told. I'm sure that's probably when it will happen, June or July. I don't know. It's just, I find it amazing that all these other teams can figure out a way to get this stuff done in like February, March, and April. But the Miami Dolphins, it just seems like, again, a day late. And it's not a dollar short because it ends up costing them a little bit more. I think this will here. So I don't know why it's taken so long. Either both sides are really far apart, or Miami just hasn't prioritized this at all. You can read into that what you will, but this is another quarterback getting big money deal here that does have a ripple effect on Tua. I've been easy on Chris Grier the past year or so. I thought the roster he put together last year for Mike McDaniel was the best Miami Dolphins roster top to bottom since like the mid to late 90s, probably like 94, 95-ish. That roster was that good. They didn't, win anything. And I know injuries played a factor. There's a million excuses why, but I've been pretty easy on Chris. But I don't know. It's like, it's tough sometimes when, they could have done this deal last offseason. They didn't because they wanted to see Tua stay healthy for a full season, all that good stuff. I get it. Fair enough. Valid point. Tua did stay healthy. Miami was out of the playoffs in early January. Like, I think the playoff game was like January 12th to 13th off top. Something like that. 5 months since then. You haven't made up your mind if you want this kid and how much you're going to pay. Like, they couldn't have pulled the trigger between then and now. I mean, how much longer is this going to drag out? It's just, and it's not one of those things where they need to wait to post June 1st to get the Xavier Howard money off the. It's not that, because Tua is already on the cap, and an extension only lowers his number this year. So it's not like they need the money from Xavier Howard to come off the books to make this happen. It has nothing to do with that. So, I'm sure it's going to happen. Probably going to happen in, I don't know. I mean, I'm done taking a guess. I know I just went on this little bit of a spiel here, and I watch it get done 5 minutes after I'm done recording. It makes me look like a fool. But at the pace they're moving, it doesn't seem like it's going to go that way. Again, Adam Schefter, he reported months ago, probably June or July. Well, we're May 13th as I record this. So we're probably looking at least another 3 to 4 weeks at the earliest, and it might be another, 8 weeks or 9 weeks before it's actually done. I don't know. Is what it is. Here's the deal. Miami's going to re-sign him. Miami's going to pay him. They're going to break the bank to keep him. I know some fans out there listening right now, that triggers you. You're not you go nuts. You can't pay him. I don't know what you're look. They're going to pay him. It's just every passing day this goes, it seems like they're just going to have to pay him a little bit more, and the leverage just moves an inch more into on the side of Tua and his representation. And this contract, say, from Jared Goff just helps their case even more. It gives them more boost to be like, look, we're younger than Jared Goff. We statistically had, a better season than Goff, and we think we should be paid more than Goff. And you can't argue with that. You can't argue with that. So, again, I don't know what's taking so long. Again, I'll give them some benefit of the doubt, but, and I know some people said, well, they're working on the draft. Well, we can't walk and chew gum at the same time. These other teams seem to do it. We can only focus on one thing at once. I don't think it's that, but we'll see. But yeah, these two contracts today will have a ripple effect both on Jevon Holland and Tua Tagovailoa moving forward here. I will say this. I think Waddle's going to get paid because I think the Dolphins are tired of Tyreek Hill and his antics. I literally think they are counting down the days until they can move on from Tyreek Hill. Not because he's not a great player, just because it's a lot having to put up with Tyreek. I think Waddle will get paid big money. I think Jaylen Phillips, if he comes back healthy, which all of us hope for, I think he'll get paid too, because I think Chubb, who's had a lot of injuries and who is older to say the least, I don't think they want to bank on him. I think Jaylen Phillips, Chop Robinson, in a perfect world, are their sort of edge rushers they want to move forward with beyond, after this year. So I think he's going to get paid big money. I think Tua will get paid big money eventually. Now, they might have waited so long, it's going to cost them more than if they would have got this done in February or March. Who the heck knows at this point? So I think he'll get paid big money. I'm not so sure that Javon Holland's going to get an extension in Miami. I might be wrong. But again, Chris Grier's history, premium positions, and Christian Wilkins was the leader of this team, and they didn't budge for him. Robert Hunt, we know how much the offensive line's been an utter mess the past however many years. They didn't budge for him, and they didn't budge for them. I know, for those of you screaming right now, well, they got $27 million a year, $20 million. Yeah, but if they would have really budged on them like last year this time, before the price range got so out of control to try and lock them up, it never would have got to that point. So I have a feeling if Holland isn't extended before week 1, or even by like the end of September-ish or October-ish, the first part of the season, I don't think he's in Miami next year. Call me crazy. I don't see it happening. I just think Miami is, Chris Grier's not going to pay a safety that kind of money. And if Antoine Winfield just got a contract making him the highest paid defensive back in NFL history, that includes corners and safeties. When safety is not even a premium position, I just think Chris Grier will just be happy to take a 2026 third-round comp pick and move on from Holland. We'll see, though. We'll see. I hope I'm wrong because I love Jevon Holland, and I don't want him to go anywhere. Let's see here. One more topic here, but before we get to that, I want to remind people that the Jaylen Waddle Youth Football Camp is the place to be this summer. Join the Miami Star on June 22nd in Fort Lauderdale for skill building, fun, and memories that will last a lifetime. Visit JaylenWaddleCamp.com and register while spots are still available. Each camper will receive a limited edition t-shirt, a souvenir autograph, and a team photo with Jaylen. Check out JaylenWaddleCamp.com to learn more. That's JaylenWaddleCamp.com. See you on the field. This is open to boys and girls, grades 1 through 8. Okay, we are about, at the time of me recording this, 48 hours away from the official release of the 2024 Miami Dolphins schedule. And I literally hate this week with a passion. And the reason I hate this week is there is, every two-bit Tom, Dick, and Harry on the internet is out there putting fake news out there. Sources tell me, you work at Valvoline, you have no sources. No one's telling you anything. You work at a bank, you have no sources. No one's telling you. Every idiot who has a social media account out there is like, sources have told me. You have no source telling you fake news, or they want to be the first one to report what someone else has already reported. Just hit, if you're on Twitter, just hit the retweet button. You don't have to copy and paste what they're saying. It drives. This is worse than April Fool's Day this week, because on April Fool's Day, everyone thinks they're so funny, and I'm going to put out a tweet, or I'm going to put out something on Facebook or Instagram. It's going to be funny, and some people are going to fall for it, and so it drives me nuts. Here's the deal: it's a schedule, folks. Wednesday at 8, it gets released. Look at it Wednesday at 8, and even the NFL gets a little bit of blame here with the slow drip. Like we're going to tell you today, week 1, Cleveland at Dallas, 4:25. I could have waited till Wednesday to hear that. Who cares? Week 1, Thursday Night Football, Ravens at Chiefs. Great. My life hasn't changed. I could have waited till Wednesday. This is the single worst week in the NFL because, like I said, if you're on social media, especially Twitter, which is hell on earth, that is, if hell is a real place, it's got to be Twitter. Because every idiot, they all get together. It's just like everyone. Sources tell me, again, you change oil for a living. You have no sources. You work at a bank. You have no sources. So no, don't believe anything anyone put, unless it's Adam Schefter, unless it's, Ian Rappaport, Peter Schrager, those types putting it out. Don't believe it because it's 99% sure probably fake. Now, when the Dolphins schedule comes out, we already know the list of opponents. It is what it is. Again, the two things I'm hoping for. Number 1, early bye week. I want a bye week 5, 6, or 7. I want to get it out of the way. Here's why. Because Chubb and Phillips are hurt. I want more games after the bye than before it, because then, week 5, those guys might not be playing anyways. I'll take an off week then, because then I want more games after the bye where those two, one or both, will be on the field playing. So I want an early bye week this year. Early bye week, 100%. The other thing, because of those two injuries, I want as many late season games versus division rivals. I want Bills and Jets games. I don't care about the Patriots, actually. Bills and Jets games. Give me them late in the year. Give me them. If those 4 games, 2 against the Bills, 2 against the Jets, November 1st on, all 4 of them late in the year. I don't want to play them shorthanded without our 2 best pass rushers. That's what I'm kind of hoping for when this schedule comes out here. On Wednesday night, I want an early bye week, and I want those late season games versus the Jets and Bills, because we know that means more. But who knows? It's a schedule. We'll find out Wednesday at 8. And for those of you who want to join us live Wednesday night, probably a few minutes before 8, 7:45, 7:50, somewhere around there, myself, Tom Ernest, Ian Berger, Josh and Aaron, we will be live on the DolphinsTalk YouTube channel when the schedule is revealed. We will give our thoughts, our instant reaction, talk about, tough stretches, easy stretches. Was it a positive schedule for Miami? Was it a rough schedule for Miami? Last year, Miami got the schedule from the football gods. They ended the year with, 5 of the last 6 or 7 at home. They didn't have to go play any cold weather games outside of the Ravens game, week 17. The schedule broke perfectly for Miami in every which way. That's not always the case. And the odds of that happening 2 years in a row, probably unlikely. But we'll talk about, any potential cold weather games that might be an issue for Miami, a tough stretch. If there's a short week followed by, if there's a game where you play, on a Sunday, then you go to a Thursday, then you go to a Saturday. It's like, holy cow, you got short week after short week. We're going to talk about all that stuff. So tune in on the DolphinsTalk.com YouTube channel Wednesday night just before 8. You can join us here in the chat live, or I will drop the show in audio form shortly after we're done that night recording. Everyone, thank you for listening to today's show. Be sure to go to DolphinsTalk.com, read all the new articles, listen to all the podcasts, listen to my interview with Dan Patrick from last Thursday. If you missed it, yes, that Dan Patrick, formerly of ESPN. We talk about his new book and a ton of stuff on the Dolphins, and we even broke out into a Tua versus Dak Prescott debate, and he tells a bunch of great stories. Check out the 3 interviews that Marino did recently with 3 of the undrafted free agents, and Mark Perry, Jordan Colbert, and Storm Duck. You want to check them out to hear what 3 current players on the team have said, why they picked Miami to sign after they went undrafted. You're going to want to hear those shows as well. And just check out all the work there. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Threads and Instagram at Dolphins Talk. And we'll have new shows the rest of the week for you. Everyone, thank you for listening. We appreciate all of your support. And folks, don't forget, we must put an end to highway profanity.